Picture this. November 1943. A rocky Greek island 20 miles from Turkey. 11,500 Allied troops manning fortress walls, anti-aircraft guns, coastal batteries. They control the high ground. They have naval support. They outnumber the enemy 4-1. Then 2,800 German paratroopers and Marines show up. 4 days later, the fortress surrenders. Every single British battalion ceases to exist. What happened on Leros was Germany's last decisive victory of World War II. This is how they pulled it off. If you value documented military history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual. Using sources from Anthony Rogers, Mount Swastika over the Aegean, published by Toro in 2013, and detailed battlefield reports from WWW2 Com Archives published in 2025, sources that dive deep into German operational records and British after-action reports most documentaries never touch. Now back to the information. Leros sits in the Dodecanese, 12 Greek islands that Italy grabbed in 1912. When Mussolini called it the Corregidor of the Mediterranean, he wasn't bluffing. The island's port at Lakki could dock destroyers. Coastal batteries with 152mm guns commanded every approach. 26 artillery positions, 115 guns total. 52 of them anti-aircraft, underground bunkers carved into solid rock, machine gun nests covering every beach. If you wanted to build an island fortress, this was your blueprint. September 8th, 1943. Italy surrenders. The armistice changes everything. Suddenly, these Italian-held islands are up for grabs. Churchill sees his chance. He's obsessed with the Aegean since his Dardanelles disaster in World War I cost him his job as First Sea Lord. Now he's Prime Minister. This is his redemption. The Americans think he's wasting resources. They're focused on Italy. Churchill doesn't care. September 23rd. General Lieutenant Friedrich Wilhelm Müller gets his orders. Commander of the 22nd Infantry Division on Crete. Take Kos, take Leros. Müller is 46 years old. Eastern Front veteran. Knight's Cross with oak leaves. His men call him efficient. His enemies will call him something else entirely. October 3rd. Kos falls in one day. Müller lands Marines at dawn, drops paratroopers at 7 a.m., controls the town by evening. The British lose their only airfield in the Aegean. No more Spitfire cover. No more air support. Leros is now alone. The defenders think they're ready. Admiral Luigi Mascherpa commands 8,500 Italians. Most are naval personnel, not frontline troops. The British send their best, 234th Infantry Brigade, 3,000 men, Royal Irish Fusiliers under Lieutenant Colonel Maurice French, 4th Battalion, the Buffs, 1st King's Own Royal Regiment Lancaster, the Long Range Desert Group, Special Boat Squadron. Elite raiders who've been fighting since North Africa. Brigadier Robert Tilney arrives November 5th to take command. His first mistake, he scraps French's defensive plan. French knows the island. He's positioned troops on the high ground, controlling the narrow waist where Leros pinches to 500 meters wide. Tilney spreads them along the beaches instead, thins out the line, creates communication gaps. The Germans study this from the air and smile. November 12th, 4:30 a.m. Operation Typhoon begins. Typhoon. 36 hours of bombing have softened the defenses. Now comes the real test. German landing craft hit 4 beaches simultaneously. Palma Bay, Posta di Sopra, Pendelly Bay, Gurna Bay. The Royal Irish Fusiliers meet them at the waterline. Muzzle flashes in the pre-dawn darkness. Machine guns chattering across the rocky shore. But Müller has a trick. At 2:30 in the afternoon, 36 Junkers, 52 transports appear over Mount Rachi. No warning. The British anti-aircraft crews have been pounded by Stukas all morning. Half their guns are silent. The transports drop 600 paratroopers directly onto the island's narrow center. The Fallschirmjäger land hard on rocky terrain under heavy fire. Half die before they hit the ground, or in the first 10 minutes. But 300 survive. 300 is enough. The paratroopers are from Brandenburg Division. Special operations, coast raiders. They dig in around Mount Rachi and Mount Cleti. Suddenly the island is cut in two. The Buffs in the south can't reinforce the Irish Fusiliers in the north. Radio communications break down. Runners get lost in the rocky maze. Units fight isolated battles without coordination. That night, German reinforcements slip ashore. The Royal Navy tries to intercept. HMS Dulverton races toward Leros with supplies. German bombers hit her with a guided missile, the Henschel HS-293. 78 men die when she goes down. The message is clear. German air power owns the Aegean. November 13th, the British counterattack. King's Own and Royal Irish Fusiliers push toward the paratroopers. They're fighting uphill against entrenched positions. The Fallschirmjäger have captured Italian 47mm anti-tank guns. They use them against infantry, Point-blank range. Bodies pile up on the slopes. The counterattack fails. Same day, more paratroopers drop. Another company from Brandenburg Division. Their third operational jump in 6 weeks. They hit the Lago Battery, overrun the gun positions, execute the Italian officers, Lieutenant Antonino Lopresti, Lieutenant Fedele Attella. Shot after capture. This isn't just military necessity. This is Friedrich Wilhelm Müller's style. The Ciano Battery holds out until every gun is destroyed. Then the Germans capture it, execute the officers. The pattern repeats across the island. Resist too long, pay the price. This is the same man who will massacre Greek civilians at Vianos, Anogia, Amari. They'll call him the Butcher of Crete. On Leros, he's just getting started. November 14th, the British are running out of options, scattered across the island. No air support. Naval reinforcements arrive piecemeal. 500 men from HMS Echo and HMS Belvoir land at Portolago Bay. 2 more companies of Royal West Kent Regiment from Samos, but it's too little, too late. The Germans have momentum. They control the high ground, Mount Apatici, Mount Vedetta, Mount Cleti. Their Stukas provide close air support from dawn to dusk. Every British movement draws immediate attack. The troops call them flying artillery, precise, deadly, unstoppable. That night, German forces push into Leros town, Alinda village, Santa Marina. The island's populated areas, civilians caught in crossfire, British destroyers, Penn, Blencathra, and Aldenham shell German positions from offshore. They sink some landing craft, but the damage is done. The Germans are ashore in strength. November 16th, 8:25 a.m. The end comes suddenly. German forces overrun Mount Meraviglia, brigade headquarters. Signalers destroy their codes to prevent capture. Brigadier Tilney withdraws with his staff toward Lakki port in the south, hopes to set up a new command post, re-establish communications. He never makes it. German troops intercept his signal to Cairo. Situation critical. German forces supported by Stukas reinforcing the peninsula. Defensive positions neutralized. Troops demoralized, facing hopeless situation. The Germans translate it immediately. Duplicate it as propaganda leaflets. Drop them over their own positions with encouragement from their commander. But Mount Meraviglia's defenders aren't finished. They stem the German advance, buy precious hours. Tilney returns to his headquarters, tries to restore order from chaos. It's hopeless. That afternoon, renewed German assault captures Tilney and his entire staff. The fortress command structure collapses. Other British units still fight, still think they can hold. The King's Own on the southern hills. The Buffs defending their sector. Individual companies and platoons in isolated positions. But their brigadier concludes further resistance is futile. At 5:45 p.m., Tilney formally surrenders to Miller. The battle is over. Some survivors evacuate from the southern beaches that night, but organized resistance ends. 4 days, 2,800 Germans defeat 11,500 Allies. The numbers seem impossible, but the reasons are clear. Air superiority. The Luftwaffe owns the sky. Every British movement brings immediate attack. No reinforcements can arrive safely. No supplies can get through. Combined arms. The Germans coordinate paratroopers, marines, air support, artillery. Each element supports the others. The British fight separate battles with no overall coordination. Radio failures, broken command structure, units operating blind. Initiative. Miller strikes hard and fast. Doesn't give the defense time to reorganize, keeps pressure constant, forces decisions under stress. The British react instead of acting, always one step behind. Terrain mastery. The paratroopers land exactly where they need to be. The narrow waist, the key high ground. They study the island from aerial reconnaissance, know every hill, every valley, every approach. The British spread thin trying to defend everything, end up defending nothing effectively. Casualties tell the story. German losses, 520 killed or missing. Brutal for such a small force, but they accomplished the mission. British losses, 600 killed or missing. 187 die fighting on Leros, the rest at sea when ships go down. Italian losses, 254 killed or missing, plus 20 civilians caught in crossfire. But the real cost is strategic. 234th Infantry Brigade ceases to exist. 3,000 British troops captured or killed, the cream of the Mediterranean forces. Veterans of Malta, North Africa, Special Operations, irreplaceable experience lost in 4 days. The broader Dodecanese campaign costs the Allies 5,000 army personnel, 500 naval personnel, 3 submarines lost, 15 ships sunk, 100 aircraft written off, 28 more damaged, all for islands that contribute nothing to winning the war. For Germany, this is their last successful operation to seize and occupy foreign soil. Their final conquest, after Leros, its retreat on every front. But for one brief moment in November 1943, the Wehrmacht shows they still have fight left. The tactics are textbook. Vertical envelopment, dropping paratroopers behind enemy lines, combined amphibious and airborne assault, concentrated air power supporting ground operations, psychological warfare, executing prisoners to intimidate others. It's efficient, it's brutal, it works. The weapons tell their own story. German paratroopers jump with FG-42 automatic rifles, MP-40 submachine guns, stick grenades. They travel light, hit hard. Italian coastal batteries fire obsolete ammunition. British infantry carry Lee Enfield rifles designed in 1895. The technology gap shows in every engagement. But technology isn't everything. Training matters more. The Fallschirmjäger are elite troops, volunteers, specialists. They've trained for this exact mission, jumping onto defended islands, securing key terrain, operating behind enemy lines. The British infantry are good soldiers, but they're not specialists. They're defending static positions against mobile assault troops. Command decisions make the difference. Miller concentrates his forces, strikes the critical point, exploits success immediately. Tilney spreads his forces, defends everywhere, succeeds nowhere. One commander thinks tactically, the other thinks defensively. The tactical thinker wins. The intelligence war favors Germany. They have aerial reconnaissance, photo interpretation, signal intercepts. They know exactly what they're attacking. British intelligence is sketchy. They don't know German strength, timings, or objectives until the shooting starts. Fighting blind against an enemy who sees everything. Weather plays a role. November storms in the Aegean, rough seas, low clouds. The British count on bad weather to prevent German air operations. Instead, it grounds their own reconnaissance flights while German pilots keep flying. Local knowledge matters. German aircrew know these waters. British pilots are learning on the job. The political dimension creates problems. Churchill pushes the operation against American objections. Resources are limited, no strategic reserve. When things go wrong, there's no help coming. The Americans focus on Italy, won't divert ships or planes for what they see as a sideshow. Churchill's obsession becomes a military disaster. Italian cooperation complicates everything. Some units fight alongside the British, others surrender immediately. Many are simply confused. The armistice terms are unclear. Command relationships are uncertain. In battle, uncertainty kills. The Germans exploit every hesitation, every delay, every moment of confusion. Naval support has limitations. British destroyers can shell the beaches. But they can't stay long. German air power forces them to retreat by dawn. Hit-and-run raids don't provide continuous fire support. The Germans know exactly when the ships will leave. Plan their operations accordingly. Geographic reality shapes everything. Leros is small. 16 square miles. Rough terrain, limited roads. No room to maneuver, no space to trade for time. Once the Germans are ashore, it's a knife fight in a telephone booth. Numbers don't matter when you can't deploy them effectively. The human cost is enormous. Private Paddy McChrystal, 21st Royal Irish Fusiliers, remembers the end. The Jerrys came behind us, where they dropped the paratroops. We didn't know that. Surrounded on top of a mountain. 21 years old. War over. Thousands of similar stories. Young men fighting and dying for islands most people can't find on a map. But there are heroes too. Drummer Brown, who gets drunk every time he's out of an officer's sight, earns the military medal fighting snipers on Mount Meraviglia. Italian officers like Lieutenant Antonino Lopresti die defending their positions rather than surrender. British soldiers like the man named Duff found dead with 3 Germans in front of his position, last round in the chamber, facing the right way. The aftermath is bitter. New Zealand Prime Minister Peter Fraser writes to London, "The circumstances surrounding the loss of Leros have already largely destroyed my own faith in the present Mideast command. When it becomes known that a number of New Zealanders were stupidly sacrificed without consent from our government, the disappointment and bitterness will be intensified. I strongly protest against any of our men being sacrificed in such a fashion." Churchill faces harsh criticism. Parliament asks uncomfortable questions. The Prime Minister recommends an evasive policy when the issue comes up. Classic political damage control, but the military facts can't be evaded. This was a disaster that should never have happened. Resources wasted, lives lost. For what? Islands that contribute nothing to victory. The prisoners face a grim future. German and Italian POWs are transported on cargo ships. Donizetti and Sinfra carry nearly 4,000 prisoners when Allied action sinks both vessels. 3,400 men drown. The sea doesn't discriminate between victor and vanquished. War claims everyone eventually. Miller records his casualties carefully. 260 killed, 746 wounded, 162 missing. Total, 1,168. From an assault force of approximately 2,800. 40% casualties, devastating losses. But the mission succeeds. In war, success is measured by objectives achieved, not lives saved. The strategic picture changes immediately. With Leros gone, Samos becomes indefensible. The British evacuate November 22nd without a fight. German conquest of the Aegean is complete. They hold these islands until May 1945. 2 years of occupation, resources diverted from more important theaters, but the precedent is set. Combined arms assault can overcome any fixed defense. The technical lessons echo through military history. Vertical envelopment, airborne troops landing behind enemy lines, becomes standard doctrine. The Americans study German methods, apply them to Normandy, Market Garden, the Rhine crossings. What works on Leros works on a larger scale. Air-ground coordination reaches new levels. German pilots and ground troops operate with radio links. Immediate close support. Target identification in real time. The Stuka becomes flying artillery, responding to ground requests within minutes. British forces fight without this integration. Their aircraft, when available, operate independently. No coordination, no combined effect. Intelligence fusion gives Germany decisive advantage. Photo reconnaissance, signal intercepts, prisoner interrogations, local informants. Everything feeds into operational planning. German commanders know British strength, positions, morale, supply status. They fight an informed war. British intelligence is fragmented, incomplete, often wrong. Commanders make decisions with partial information, usually too late. Equipment differences matter. German MP 40 submachine guns have high rate of fire, reliable in sand and salt spray. British Sten guns jam constantly. German stick grenades have longer range than British Mills bombs. German field radios work better in mountainous terrain. Small advantages accumulate into tactical superiority. Training emphasis shows German paratroopers practice island assault repeatedly, mock-ups of target terrain, rehearsals with live ammunition. They know their jobs. British infantry train for conventional operations. Attacking prepared positions isn't their specialty. They're learning under fire. Expensive education, medical support reveals priorities. German casualty evacuation is immediate. Junkers, 52 transports, double as medical aircraft. Wounded get treatment within hours. British wounded wait for naval evacuation. If ships can reach them, many die who might have lived with faster care. War is logistics. The psychological dimension cuts deep. German propaganda exploits every British setback. Radio broadcasts from Athens mock Allied failures. Leaflet drops with intercepted communications. German soldiers believe they're winning. British morale crumbles under constant air attack. No food, no sleep, no hope. Mental warfare is real warfare. Leadership styles clash. German officers lead from front, share risks with their men, build unit cohesion through shared hardship. British officers often command from rear, safety first, mission second. When officers won't risk themselves, soldiers question the mission. Courage is contagious, so is cowardice. Time factors determine outcomes. German operations move at maximum speed. No delays, no second guessing. Momentum carries through objectives. British responses are methodical. Committee decisions, risk assessment. By the time they act, the situation has changed. In war, speed kills. Resource allocation reflects strategic thinking. Germany commits everything to the Aegean. Pull aircraft from Italy, France, Norway. Concentrate overwhelming force at the decisive point. Britain divides resources. Some to Italy, some to Aegean, some held in reserve. Divided forces achieved nothing decisive. Weather becomes a weapon. German meteorologists provide accurate forecasts. Operations launch in optimal conditions. British weather intelligence is poor. Ships sortie into storms. Aircraft grounded by unexpected conditions. Nature fights for the side with better information. Communication security fails both sides differently. Germans intercept British operational messages, the 8:25 a.m. signal from Tilney to Cairo on November 16th. Situation critical. German forces supported by Stukas reinforcing peninsula, defensive positions neutralized. Gets translated in real time, duplicated as propaganda leaflets, dropped over German positions with encouragement from Miller. The enemy knows your plans before your own troops do. British code-breaking focuses on strategic intelligence. Tactical communications remain vulnerable. Geographic knowledge proves crucial. German charts of Aegean waters are accurate. Italian coastline surveys dating to 1912. They know every reef, every current, every landing site. British charts are outdated. Ships run aground on unmarked shoals. Navigation errors compound tactical mistakes. Night operations favor different sides. German paratroopers train extensively in darkness, use starlight scopes, coordinate by sound signals. British infantry rely on daylight for complex maneuvers. Night attacks become German advantages. Darkness multiplies confusion for the defense. November 12th to 13th. German reinforcements slip ashore under cover of darkness. British naval patrols fail to intercept. Communication delays, uncertainty about ship identification. By dawn, Germans have doubled their forces on the island. Supply chain logistics determine staying power. German submarines and fast craft maintain contact with occupied islands. Regular reinforcement and resupply. British supply runs are hazardous. Ships sunk. Supplies lost at sea. Defenders run short of everything. Ammunition, medical supplies, food, water. Will to fight. The engineering dimension shapes battlefield preparation. German pioneers prepare landing sites weeks in advance. Clear obstacles. Mark channels. Position supplies. British engineers react to German actions. Hasty minefield. Improvised barriers. Reactive engineering versus proactive preparation. Signal intelligence provides operational advantage. German radio intercept stations track British ship movements, predict reinforcement schedules, time attacks to avoid naval interference. On the night of November 10th to 11th, destroyers HMS Petard, HMS Rockwood in Polish. Destroyer ORP Krakowiak bombard Kalymnos. HMS Falknor hits Kos. German intelligence tracks every movement, knows exactly when ships leave, when they'll return, where they're vulnerable. Artillery coordination multiplies firepower effect. German guns register on key positions before the assault, pre-planned fires on likely targets. When infantry calls for support, shells arrive immediately. British artillery reacts to developing situations. Time delay between request and impact allows Germans to move, take cover, survive. Air defense integration protects operations. German fighters coordinate with ground operations. Flak units move with assault troops. Layered defense against British aircraft. British air defense is fragmented. Ships, shore batteries, fighter planes operate independently. No unified command, no coordinated response. September 26th. 25 Junkers, 88 bombers sink Greek destroyer Vasilisa Olga and HMS Intrepid at Lakki Bay. Coordinated strike, overwhelming force, decisive result. Chemical warfare stays theoretical. Both sides have capability, neither uses it. Leros terrain favors defenders against gas attack. Wind patterns unpredictable. Chemical weapons require special training, equipment, logistics. Conventional weapons work fine. Why complicate operations? The prisoner of war issue complicates everything. German treatment of captured officers violates Geneva Convention. Summary executions send a message. Resist hard, pay the price. Lieutenant Antonino Lopresti, commander of Battery 211, executed after capture. Lieutenant Fidelia Tella, in charge of Alinda area, shot after surrender. The Ciano battery officers executed after their guns are destroyed. British consider this barbaric. German view is practical, eliminate leadership, break resistance quickly. Different military cultures, different methods. Naval mine warfare controls sea lanes. German mines seal approaches to occupied islands. Force British ships into predictable channels. Easy targeting for submarines, aircraft, coastal guns. British minesweeping is reactive. Clear channels after mines are laid, always one step behind. October 22nd to 24th. HMS Herworth and HMS Eclipse sink in German minefield east of Kalymnos. The Greek destroyer Adrius loses its prow to mine strike. The sea becomes as deadly as the air. Electronic warfare begins to matter. German radar provides early warning of British ship movements. British ships lack effective radar countermeasures. Technology edge gives tactical advantage, but electronic systems are fragile. Salt spray, battle damage, backup systems determine reliability. Medical evacuation saves lives, maintains morale. German wounded evacuated by air, fast, efficient, are reliable. British wounded wait for ships. If ships can get through, soldiers notice who takes care of casualties. German troops fight harder, knowing they'll be rescued if wounded. British morale suffers watching friends die unnecessarily. The deception operation preceding assault works perfectly. German radio traffic suggests attack on Samos. British intelligence takes the bait, positions forces incorrectly. When real attack hits Leros, defenses are optimized for wrong threat. Misdirection is force multiplier. Resources wasted defending the wrong island. Urban warfare skills become important. Fighting in Leros town, Alinda village, Santa Marina, house-to-house combat. German paratroopers trained for close quarters battle. British infantry more familiar with open terrain. City fighting requires different skills. Room clearing, grenade tactics, building demolition. The night of November 14th to 15th, German forces advance into all three population centers simultaneously. Civilians trapped in crossfire. Buildings become fortresses. Every window a firing position. Fire support coordination gives Germans edge. Stuka pilots work directly with ground commanders. Radio contact, visual signals, immediate response to requests. British have no dedicated close air support. Ships provide indirect fire when available. Artillery limited by terrain. German fire support is overwhelming. From dawn to dusk, Stukas hit British positions. No rest, no recovery, constant pressure. The refugee problem complicates operations. Greek civilians caught between armies. Some flee to hills, others hide in basements. Both sides must protect non-combatants while fighting effectively. Civilians provide intelligence, sometimes to both sides. Human shields complicate target selection. 20 Greek civilians die during the battle. Collateral damage in a war not their choosing. Maintenance and logistics under fire test organizational efficiency. German weapons continue functioning despite sand, salt, combat stress. British equipment failures multiply under combat conditions. Reliability determines effectiveness. Simple, robust systems outperform complex, delicate ones in combat environment. Terrain analysis determines tactics. Rocky ground limits vehicle movement. Steep slopes favor defenders. Limited helicopter landing sites. Few roads for reinforcement. German planners study every hill, every valley, every approach. Mount Rachi, Mount Cledi, Mount Apatisi, Mount Vedetta, Mount Meraviglia. They know the elevation of every peak, the gradient of every slope, the fields of fire from every position. British reconnaissance is superficial. Terrain knowledge is tactical advantage. Cultural factors influence cooperation. Italian troops uncertain after armistice of September 8th. Some fight Germans, others cooperate with former allies. British don't trust Italian reliability. Italians resent British assumption of command. Admiral Luigi Mascherpa commands 8,500 Italians, but his authority is unclear. Who gives orders? Who coordinates defense? Cultural misunderstandings create operational friction. Time-distance factors limit response options. British reinforcements come from Egypt, Malta, Cyprus, days of sea transit. German reinforcements come from Crete. Athens, hours by air. Proximity matters more than total strength. Local superiority defeats global resources. The night of November 14th, 2 more companies of Royal West Kent Regiment land from Samos. 500 men from HMS Echo and HMS Belvoir arrive at Portolago Bay. Too little. Too late. German reinforcements have already tipped the balance. The naval dimension tells its own story. Royal Navy loses 6 destroyers sunk between September 7th and November 28th. 2 cruisers damaged, 2 more destroyers damaged. HMS Dulverton goes down November 13th with 78 men. German-guided missile, Henschel HS-293, hits her while she's delivering supplies. The new technology kills the old warship. HMS Herworth, HMS Eclipse, both to mines. HMS Intrepid to bombs. Greek destroyer Vasilisa Olga, one of the most glorious ships of the Greek Navy, sunk September 26th. The cost in ships and men is staggering, but Leros reveals something deeper about warfare in 1943. This is the last time German forces successfully conquer territory. The last offensive victory. After November 16, 1943, the Wehrmacht fights only defensive battles, withdrawing from Russia, retreating from Italy, preparing for invasion of France. The high tide of German expansion ends on a rocky Greek island most people have never heard of. The tactical innovations survive the war. Vertical envelopment, combined arms coordination, close air support doctrine, intelligence fusion. These methods are studied, copied, improved by all armies. What the Germans pioneer on Leros becomes standard practice for everyone else. American airborne operations in Normandy use similar techniques. British operations at Arnhem, Soviet operations in Manchuria. The doctrinal legacy outlives the Third Reich. But the strategic lesson is different. Small-scale tactical brilliance cannot overcome strategic disadvantage. Germany wins every battle in the Aegean and gains nothing decisive. Resources spent on Leros could have strengthened Italy, Russia, or Atlantic Wall defenses. Tactical success masks strategic failure. Churchill himself, writing to Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden on November 21st, admits no attempts should be made to minimize the poignancy of the loss of the Dodecanese, which we had a chance of getting so easily and at so little cost, and which we now lost after heavy expenditure. The political fallout spreads wide. New Zealand Prime Minister Peter Fraser writes to the High Commissioner in London, November 27th, "The circumstances surrounding the loss of Leros have already largely destroyed my own faith in the present Mid-East Command, if it was responsible. And when it becomes known that a number of New Zealanders were stupidly sacrificed without even consent for their inclusion in the task force being asked from our government, the disappointment and bitterness here will be intensified many times over. Dominion anger at British command decisions. Imperial strain showing under wartime pressure. The human stories endure. Paddy McChrystal, 21 years old, Royal Irish Fusiliers, surrounded on a mountain. November 16th remembers the Jerrys came behind us, where they dropped the paratroops. We didn't know that. Spends the war in German prison camps. Survives to return home to Ireland. Tells his story decades later. Drummer Brown, who gets drunk every time he's out of an officer's sight, earns the military medal for eliminating snipers with Lieutenant James. He and I set off to eliminate these snipers. We managed to achieve that, and I am glad to say he got a military medal for it, and that's why I won my military cross. It was a hell of a battle. Brown doesn't survive the war. Dies fighting in Italy 6 months later. The medal outlives the man. The soldier named Duff, found dead on a rocky, bloody crag on Tangucha Hill, facing the right way. Last round of a clip in the breech. 3 dead Germans in front of him. Name preserved by Brigadier Nelson Russell, who writes, "After all is over, and the remainder of the Empire is understandably irritated with Ireland, I hope these countless Duffs from both the North and the South, and in all 3 services, will be remembered." Anonymous heroism, documented courage. Friedrich Wilhelm Müller, the victor of Leros, commands German Fourth Army on the Eastern Front by 1945. The Heiligenbeil Pocket in East Prussia, surrounded by Soviets. The Fourth Army already decimated when he takes command in March 1945, surrenders to Red Army when Germany collapses. But the Soviets don't keep him. They hand him to the Greeks. The trial comes in Athens, 1946. War crimes. The massacres at Vianos, where over 500 Greek civilians died September 1943. Anogia, where 940 houses were dynamited August 1944. The Kedros Holocaust, 164 civilians killed August 22, 1944. The Butcher of Crete stands trial for the blood on his hands, convicted. December 9th, 1946, sentenced to death. May 20th, 1947, firing squad. Anniversary of the German invasion of Crete in 1941, symbolic date, deliberate choice. Müller faces execution alongside General Bruno Breuer, another German commander from Crete. The victors of Leros and Crete die together on the anniversary of their greatest triumph. History's irony cuts deep. Today, Leros attracts few tourists. Rocky coastline, limited beaches, small hotels, but veterans return occasionally to remember fallen comrades, place wreaths on graves. British, German, Italian, Greek, war makes enemies of the living, death makes equals of all. The cemeteries tell the story. Commonwealth War. Graves Commission maintains British section, neat rows of white headstones, names and dates carved in stone. Ages that break your heart. 19. 20, 21. Boys who died for islands they'd never seen before their last battles. German graves scattered across the island. No central cemetery. Individual markers. Italian memorial overlooks Lakki Harbor. Bronze plaques. Marble columns. Remembering the 8,000 who served, the hundreds who died. Archaeological evidence emerges slowly. German landing craft wrecks in shallow water at Kaluki Beach in Lakki. A small German landing craft used during the invasion, destroyed during the landing, now accessible to divers at just 2 to 3 meters depth. Anyone with a snorkel mask can visit. Touch history underwater. British ammunition dumps hidden in caves, rusted shells, corroded casings, Italian gun positions carved into solid rock, concrete bunkers on Mount Apatisi, the ruins of the observatory at the hilltop, later used by the Greek army, now abandoned. The island preserves its war scars, history written in metal and stone. Museum displays preserve artifacts, German helmets, British weapons, Italian uniforms, shell casings, personal letters, photographs. The debris of war becomes historical exhibit, sanitized, educational. Nothing conveys the terror, confusion, exhaustion of actual combat. Peace transforms war into memory. The Hellenic Air Force Museum displays a Junkers 52 wreck shot down over Leros. November 13th, 1943. Salvaged from the seabed in 2003. Twisted metal, preserved history. Local memory keeps stories alive. Greek families remember the occupation. British bomber crew hidden in mountain caves. German patrols searching villages. Italian soldiers sharing food with hungry children. The Dodecanese family on nearby Kalymnos rescued 3 British seamen. Mother operated on 1 sailor. 2 daughters took food daily to the cave where they hid. Local underground smuggled 2 sailors to Turkey. The son used a donkey to smuggle the injured sailor to Cyprus, then joined the Greek Air Force. War creates strange alliances. Enemies become friends. Friends become enemies. Survival matters more than ideology. Diving expeditions explore underwater battlefields. Sunken ships like the Greek destroyer Vasilisa Olga, sunk September 26, 1943 by German bombers, along with HMS Intrepid, while anchored in Lakki Bay. The destroyer lies at depth, coral-encrusted. Fish swimming through gun turrets. Crashed aircraft. Weapons dropped overboard. The Mediterranean preserves everything in salt water. Nature reclaims the instruments of war. Modern military studies analyze the campaign. War colleges use Leros as case study, combined operations course. Amphibious warfare school, airborne tactics seminar. Students study what went right and wrong. Learn lessons paid for in blood 8 decades ago. The analysis fills volumes. Operational reports, tactical assessments, strategic critiques. But the core lesson remains simple. Coordination beats numbers. Technology changes everything. GPS navigation eliminates chart errors. Satellite communications provide instant contact. Precision munitions hit individual buildings. Drones provide real-time reconnaissance. Modern armies would fight this battle completely differently, but human factors remain constant. Courage, leadership, training, morale. Technology serves these qualities, never replaces them. Final casualty figures tell the complete story. Germans, 520 killed or missing. From an assault force of 2,800, 18.5%. Devastating but acceptable. Italians, 254 killed or missing. From 8,500 defenders. 3%, many simply surrender. British, 600 killed or missing. 187 died fighting on Leros. The rest at sea when ships go down. From 3,000 troops, 20% casualties. The entire brigade ceases to exist. Greek Navy, 68 killed or missing. 20 Greek civilians also died, caught between armies not their own. But the broader campaign costs the Allies over 5,000 army personnel. Another 500 naval personnel killed or missing. 3 submarines lost, more than officially reported at the time. 15 ships sunk, 100 aircraft written off, 28 more damaged. All for islands that contribute nothing to winning the war. Churchill's obsession becomes Britain's disaster. The prisoner of war story darkens further. German and Italian POWs transported on cargo ships Donizetti and Sinfra. Nearly 4,000 prisoners aboard when Allied action sinks both vessels. 3,400 men drown. The irony burns. Captured in German victory, killed by Allied fire. The sea takes victor and vanquished alike. The occupation that follows is harsh. Friedrich Wilhelm Müller governs with iron fist. Resistance met with reprisal. Sabotage answered with execution. The same methods used across occupied Greece. The same brutality that earns him the nickname Butcher of Crete. Leros suffers under his rule until he's transferred to command all Crete in July 1944. His successor maintains the pressure. 18 months of German control. The ultimate irony is strategic. Germany's last victory contributes nothing to avoiding defeat. Resources spent conquering Greek islands could have reinforced France, Russia, Italy, places that actually matter for war's outcome. The 22nd Infantry Division, pulled from Crete for Dodecanese operations, might have made difference elsewhere. The Luftwaffe aircraft concentrated in the Aegean could have defended German cities from Allied bombers. Tactical brilliance serves strategic folly. But in November 1943, on a rocky island in the Aegean Sea, 2,800 German soldiers show the world how combined arms warfare should be conducted. They fight the perfect battle with imperfect forces in an impossible situation. For 4 days, they demonstrate military excellence. Paratroopers dropping into fire. Marines storming beaches under artillery. Stuka pilots supporting every advance. Commanders coordinating complex operations without modern technology. Human skill overcoming material disadvantage. Then they hold their conquered island until May 1945. 18 months of occupation duty while Germany collapses everywhere else. The garrison surrenders to British forces, who return not as conquerors, but as acceptors of surrender. The wheel turns full circle. Leros changes hands without a shot fired. The soldiers who fought so hard to take it simply walk away when ordered. The lesson of Leros is simple. In war, competence matters more than numbers. Coordination beats courage. Intelligence defeats bravery. Combined arms overcome fixed defenses. Speed overwhelms strength. Initiative conquers inertia, but tactical perfection cannot correct strategic mistakes. Germany wins every battle and loses the war. And here's what reframes everything we just heard. In 1978, Greek fishermen working nets off Lakki harbor pull up something unexpected. German dog tags, dozens of them, not from the 4-day battle, from the 18-month occupation that followed. Resistance fighters, partisan attacks, reprisals against Greek civilians. The conquest was quick, 4 days of glory. The holding cost far more, silent guerrilla war. Ambushes in mountain passes. German convoys attacked. Officers assassinated. Villages burned in response. The occupation casualties exceed the battle casualties. The fishermen's nets reveal what official records hide. Victory has a price that compounds with time. 2,800 beats 11,500 when everything goes right. But nothing stays right forever. The battle is remembered. The occupation is forgotten. Until fishermen's nets bring back the dead,